Unit 3 is going to be covering World War II. And this is our first lesson, and we're going to be talking about the causes of World War II. So, as we've been working through this credit recovery curriculum, you notice that we've been really honing in on causes and effect, and this unit is going to be no different. So, please listen for today the causes that led to World War II, and then you're going to see at the end of it the overall effects that World War II had on the United States and the world for that matter. So today you're going to be really getting into, again, the causes of World War II, and this is before the United States entered in. So you'll notice that this is going to be mostly world stuff. But again, why does this whole thing matter is because World War II is hands down the most devastating war ever fought. So you're going to see that this World War is going to encompass more of the world than World War I did. And at the end of it, it's going to be 60 million people are going to lose their lives. And when we say military personnel, where it's like soldiers and stuff like that, but then civilians, normal, everyday people like you and me that are just living their best life going through. So you'll also notice that World War II is going to help us get out of the Great Depression that you're going to be seeing in the beginning parts of lesson 2, if I remember right. But you're also going to see a change in world governments. You're going to see what's called a totalitarianism or a dictatorship. You're going to see one person taking control of different countries, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. And this is kind of important because there's nobody to check their power. So a lot of bad decisions are going to be made from our perspective. So here we go. Going into this lesson again, please observe that we're not going to be talking a lot about the United States, but in order for this whole thing to make sense, you need to know this. So going into this whole war, you're going to see really 4 countries we really care about. Working left to right, you're going to see Joseph Stalin and the Soviet Union. The next 2 are Emperor Hirohito and Hideki Tojo out of Japan. Then you're going to see Mussolini in Italy, and then Adolf Hitler in Germany. And you're going to notice that this is still hard feelings from World War I of how this is going to go down with the Treaty of Versailles. You're also going to notice the effects of the Depression are going to be kind of going into play here. And you're also going to notice that the pride of these countries, the nationalism, I guess you're going to say, is going to come back to bite them as well. So where we left off at the end of World War I, people were angry. And who was most angriest was Germany, because they had to basically assume all blame of World War I, and they had to pay back war costs to the other side, I guess you would say. So where this comes in is also with Italy. They are going to switch governments, and they're going to kind of be in the same way. They were promised a bunch of stuff at the end of the Treaty of Versailles, and they didn't get it. So therefore, they're angry. Mussolini specifically is angry. And then also Japan. They're not going to benefit from being on the winning side of World War I as well. So therefore, they are going to want to take matters in their own hands, and they are going to want to get revenge, just like Germany and Italy. So these 3 people, these 3 countries are going to naturally want to help each other and have benefits for each other. So when you go into the first question, what was the name of the treaty that ended World War I? The options will appear on the Edpuzzle. True or false? At this point in history, is the Great Depression still happening? So looking at the major players of World War II, the first one right out of the gates that everybody knows is Germany. They're led by Adolf Hitler. He has this wild nationalistic idea of returning Germany to its former glory, and you're going to notice that he is going to rise to power very quickly and peacefully, which is kind of an odd one. But going into the effects of the Great Depression, Germany is just getting rung up left and right. So he is preaching a better tomorrow for Germans. And all the while, he naturally works his way into this political party called the Nazi Party, and they're basically preaching that Germany's ethnicity is better than everybody else. When you get into the Italy side of things, this is Mussolini. He is going to be taking over before Hitler takes over Germany. And he's going to do the same thing. He is going to want to promise Italy to restore themselves to the glory of the Roman Empire. So something you're going to learn about in world history. But that was a very, very large mass of land. So when he's preaching all this stuff, again, during the Great Depression, people are going to get motivated. They're going to hear him and say he's got the right idea, and they're going to throw all their political backing towards him. And then you have two leaders inside of Japan. So this is kind of an odd thing. So the top person you see, Emperor Hirohito, he's the governmental lead. He is the emperor. He's kind of like the king. His father was the emperor before him, and his grandpa was the emperor before that. So you also have another type leader. His name is Hideki Tojo. He's more of the military side. He's the one that calls the shots. Here in the United States, we have a commander in chief, and he's in charge of everything. Okay, so he makes a lot of decisions on for a lot of different things, military included. In Japan, not so much. All that's kind of off his table. But where Japan is going to strike first is that they're going to visit an old idea. They're going to be imperialistic over China. And this is one thing that's going to catch our attention early, which I'll talk about in future lessons. But we don't like this because we don't believe in imperialism anymore. So going into the question, who was the leader of Germany at the start of World War II? Who was the leader of Italy at the start of World War II? And then who was the governmental leader of Japan during World War II? So when you go into the other side of the war, you're going to get first introduced to the Soviet Union. So they became Soviet Union after Russia dropped out of World War I in 1917. So it's the same thing. So where you're going to see the leader emerge is going to be Joseph Stalin. So he kind of has an odd climb to power, and if we had more time, I would totally talk about it because it's super interesting. But he is going to take over leadership of the Soviet Union in 1924. So at this point, when World War II is about to start, he's been in charge for a decade plus. So why this is a big deal is because they never really went through a Great Depression. They kind of kept in their own little borders since they have massive land and lots of resources at their disposal. And under communism, nobody really got what they wanted. They got what they needed. So that's kind of a big deal. When you go into Great Britain, this one's kind of an odd one as well. So you're going to see two people emerge as leaders in Great Britain during World War II. It's first going to be Neville Chamberlain. Okay, he's going to be the person that's going to work primarily at the start. He's going to work with Hitler, which I'll talk about later in this lesson. But then you're going to see Winston Churchill is going to poke his head in here as well. He is an interesting dude in himself. And again, if I had more time, I'd go more into him. But he absolutely hates Hitler, which you'll see in future lessons as well. And then you got France. So France is going to have two leaders during World War II as well. You're going to notice the top person, Albert Francois Lebrun, and then you're going to see the bottom person, who is the military leader and eventual president of France. His name is Charles de Gaulle. And they're both going to be making decisions that's going to impact France's history as well, or future as well. So going to the next question, who was the leader of the Soviet Union at the start of World War II? Who was the military leader of France at the start of World War II? And then who was the leader of Great Britain at the start of World War II? So then how does this all lead into the actual start of World War II? So naturally, as I said before, Italy and Germany, they're going to become friends. And all the while, that League of Nations that we talked about in World War I, Unit 1, they didn't really do a whole lot to stop this early aggression. And where you're going to start seeing it really pop up is Germany wasn't supposed to build up their military, and Hitler did it anyways. He wasn't supposed to take over other countries, other lands, whichever, but Germany did it anyways. Hitler did it anyways. And then Mussolini gets involved in it as well. He's going to take over Ethiopia, which isn't a very fair match because Italy has a pretty good military at this point, and Ethiopia, they're basically a third world country, which, again, that's kind of unfair. But you're also going to notice Hitler and Mussolini, they're actually going to team up. They're going to want to have more countries in Europe under a totalitarian control. So they're actually going to help an overthrow of the Spanish government. So that you're going to notice that this alliance is naturally going to happen. And then where it leads into a little bit more of the world side of things is Hitler is going to meet with Neville Chamberlain, Great Britain, if you will, and they are going to agree that with France, that Hitler, you just take what you want and don't take any more. This is called appeasement and won't lead to another war. So why did they want to do this? And I have it in red because this is the biggest reason. They saw the Soviet Union and Joseph Stalin as the bigger threat, and they figured if Germany had a little bit more to their arsenal, if you will, they're going to be like the middle ground between Joseph Stalin, Soviet Union, and Great Britain and France. So that's kind of why they let it happen. But ultimately, you could factor in they didn't want another World War One type of war, and the United States, they've already been way out in front of everything here, and they said they're going to be isolated. They want to focus on the Great Depression first, and they knew they didn't have any help. So they said, Hitler, you just take what you want. And then where this all leads to war is after Hitler and Joseph Stalin actually make friends. They both agree to say, we're going to split Poland right down the middle. So you're going to notice that Germany is going to invade from the west, Soviet Union is going to invade from the east, and poor Poland didn't stand a chance. So all the while this is happening, Great Britain and France, they make an alliance because they both do not like Hitler and how fast he's growing to power. So after that deal is made, and then after the deal between Germany and Russia, Soviet Union is made, that is when war is on. So on September 1st of 1939, World War II officially starts, and Germany's big bad military called Blitzkrieg pretty much is going to move in and it's going to make very quick work of Poland. So when it's all said and done, mania comes back to strike us again, minus an assassination. But here are the alliances. So Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, and then eventually the United States are going to be known as the Allies. The Axis are Germany, Italy, Japan, and a couple other smaller nations, but we really want to focus on those three. So when World War II started, when Germany invaded which country?